Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings. Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats, the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
Right on the money.
This week, it's one of the NFL's fiercest rivalries as the Cincinnati Bengals face the Baltimore Ravens.
Touchdown.
Coverage begins with TNF tonight. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Bengals and the Ravens Thursday only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant Prime.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs.
Oh, and that's what we're going to do for the next 1 hour on Big Blue Kickoff Live right here on Giants.com and the Giants mobile app. John Schmeelk, Matthew Citak with you. We're taking your calls at 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Also, hashtag Giants Chat. Big Blue Kickoff Live is presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Mr. Citak, happy Election Day, my friend.
Happy Election Day.
A lot of big college football playoff day. We got NFL trade deadline. Quite the busy Tuesday in the beginning of November.
Do you know who is, I don't know, the college football playoff rankings have not been released yet, correct? Or,
I have not seen them.
But,
I was just on doing draft season for an hour, so I have not been online.
But do you know who is currently ranked 24th in the country?
Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt, baby.
How many losses do you have?
3. One of them was a really bad loss to Georgia State. And that was,
you lost to Georgia State?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That's
a rough one.
But then the other 2 were double overtime to Missouri when Missouri was ranked 7th.
Yep.
And
not anymore, but yes.
Not anymore. And I think we only lost by 3 in that game. And then against Texas, we lost by 4. Those are the only losses.
I'll tell you what,
Georgia
man.
State's the only bad one.
This is like the perfect year for there to be a college football playoff. There's I think Oregon is the only undefeated, and Miami are the 2 undefeated teams remaining. That sounds right. And this is a bunch of teams with 1 loss. So if they didn't have that 12-team playoff this year, 18 playoff, what is it?
12.
12, right?
Yep.
It would be like bedlam with these teams with 1 or 2 losses screaming about who should be in and who shouldn't. So I think it's a good thing that we're to 12 teams this year.
And there still will be bedlam, even with the 12 teams.
Of course.
Because teams
there should be 16 teams.
13 and 14
correct.
are going to go crazy at the end of the season.
And I really think this is a year, too, where, I know some teams get the bye. If you win your conference, right, you get a bye in the first round. That's how it works in the 4 majors. But you could have some upsets here. You might have the 11th ranked team, let's say, is Ole Miss. They can't beat any team in the country if they play them. And if they play Oregon, it's they can't beat Oregon? No, they absolutely can.
There's no reason why this college football playoff shouldn't play out just like the NFL playoffs play out every year, where there are better teams that just lose to a team that's not as good as them, but they just played better that day. All you got to do is play better that one day when it matters. So should be fun.
By the way, if you like college football and you're excited about the draft, you can check out Draft Season. It's our draft podcast. Tony Pauline and I, we just recorded the most recent one today. It'll go up either late this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And we have all year. Every week we've been recording one. So go check them out if you want to see what's going on in college football. As for NFL football and the New York Football Giants, Matt, I got nothing left to say about this game. Did 2 hours on Sunday. I did an hour at Paul yesterday. So say whatever you want about the Giants and the Commanders, and then we'll get to the phones.
Just another. I say this
deep sigh.
I say this every week, the last couple of weeks, but it's just another frustrating loss. I mean, this game, unlike some of the others, needed a somewhat big comeback in the second half to make the final score as close as what it was.
The biggest lead was 2 scores. So I wouldn't say a big comeback, but I would say a comeback.
It was 21-7 at halftime.
Yep.
So it required 14 points. I mean, that's a decent deficit, and they got it back. They ended up,
they got to 1 score twice.
Got it to 1 score. Honestly, at the end of the day, well, in reality, if there was about a minute more on the clock when the Commanders had the ball at the end, then the score probably would have ended up as 2 scores because they finished on the Giants' 1 yard line.
Correct. They could have scored on that drive if they wanted to.
But regardless, I will say it was good to see, I guess, a little bit of life in the passing game in terms of explosive plays, some downfield throws. I feel like this was the first game that we saw multiple throws like that, a few of which were completed. Obviously, we know that there have been a ton of those this season. We had that 2-week stretch where the longest play was 16 yards or 15 yards from scrimmage. We saw a little bit more of it last week against the Steelers, and then, a good amount more in this Sunday's game against the Commanders. It was nice to see also some of the rookies on the offensive side of the ball because, we've spoken a lot about Drew Phillips, Tyler Nubin. Those guys are already big-time contributors on defense. And, of course, Malik Neighbors. But Tyrone Tracy seems like he's clearly the lead back now. He's grabbed hold of that, the leader of the backfield touches over Devin Singletary. It wasn't his biggest outing and, biggest performance, but, he averaged over 4 yards a carry. Clearly in the first half, the game plan was to establish the run and do it often.
And they did.
The Giants had a great game rushing the ball. And honestly, Daniel Jones was pretty good.
They rushed it great in the first half. They passed it great in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I know a loss is a loss, but Daniel Jones's numbers, those are pretty good numbers.
Giants had 3 second-half possessions. They scored on all 3. All 3 could have been touchdowns if not for the offensive pass interference penalty.
Yeah, I mean, and with Jones, 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, finished with a passer rating of, I think it was 110 or something, something like that. So, look, a loss is a loss. The Giants are now 2-7. Obviously, no one is happy with that. I don't know. I don't really have much to add from this Commanders game. I want to continue to see young players developing. And starting with this week against the Carolina Panthers, which is a great opportunity to see some of these young guys really get a good chance to step up and have a big game, because this Panthers team, I mean, they are one of the however many teams tied with the Giants with only 2 wins on the season. They just got their second win last week against the Saints. They're they're trading players before the deadline today.
Good job getting a 4th-round pick for Jonathan Mingo, by the way.
That was a great job by Dan Morgan. Hats off to him. But yeah, this is a good opportunity for the Giants to have another one of those strong overall performances from all 3 sides of the ball.
And standings update, by the way, there are no teams with just 1 win. So 2 wins is the fewest in the league right now, but there are a lot of teams.
I think it's 9
with just 2 wins. Yeah, I believe you are correct.
Most of which are from the AFC.
The Saints, Panthers, Giants are the only 3 NFC teams with 2 wins. In the AFC, you have the Raiders, the Jaguars, the Titans, the Browns, the Patriots, and the Dolphins. So, yeah, 9 total, 3 in the NFC, 6 in the AFC. Some of those teams with just 6 losses, some of them with 7, depending on who had the bye. So, if you're keeping track of that sort of thing, for whatever purpose you might have, that's what the deal is in terms of wins. And I do think, and I'll just say this before we get to the calls, Matt, I think it's important to get a bounce back from some of those young guys from last week. Because we talked at the start of the year that when you have that young of a secondary, you're going to have moments during the year where you're like, ugh, young secondary mistakes and problems.
Yep.
Last week was one of the first games we saw some of those young secondary mistakes and problems really crop up and got spread out. Tyler Nubin had a couple bad angles. A couple guys got open. Drew Phillips had the missed tackle on the big 3rd and 18 at the end of the second quarter. Cordell Flott had the inexplicable defensive pass interference penalty when he's in good coverage and just pushed Noah Brown out of bounds for no reason in the first half. And then you had Deonte Banks on the 2 Terry McLaurin touchdowns. So we expected some issues over the course of the year with the young secondary, but against a Panthers passing offense that probably the worst in the NFL right now, you can have the argument maybe the Tennessee Titans are in that conversation, maybe the Las Vegas Raiders, however you want to classify that group, right? To me, this is a time where you maybe get a takeaway out of the secondary too. Haven't had a lot of those, just 1 interception this year.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely would be nice. I will say Bryce Young, since starting these last 2 games, has looked a little better than earlier in the season. And I know that might not be saying much considering how he looked at the start of the season, but his numbers were pretty good 2 weeks ago against the Broncos. Not great. 2 interceptions, obviously not good. Last week against the Saints, honestly, they did enough to get the win. And, Bryce Young, I guess, didn't hand the game away like he did at times in the very beginning of the season. We also don't know at this point if it's going to be Bryce Young or Andy Dalton starting at quarterback. Dave Canales has had an opportunity to address that yesterday and basically admitted, that it's gamesmanship, that he's not going to announce who will be starting. I feel like we will likely get some sort of report in today or tomorrow.
Wouldn't you be surprised if it's not Bryce Young?
Honestly, especially coming off of a win, when he's shown some signs.
And he led him on a game-winning drive.
He's shown some signs of improvement these last 2 weeks. It would be shocking if he's not the starter, unless they're just completely giving up on him, in which case they should probably trade him before the deadline today if that's the case. But, yeah, if I had to guess, I would say probably will be Bryce Young, which, again, despite him showing some signs of improvement these last 2 weeks, that is a great matchup for the Giants secondary to get on track. Get that takeaway, get an interception, as you said, because the secondary has yet to have an interception. The Giants have 1 interception. It was Darius Muasau. So this is a great chance for the secondary to get into the turnover department, for the pass rush to sort of bounce back from last week, because obviously the pass rush has been great all season, but last week held without a sack.
Yeah, Brandon Coleman did a great job on Brian Burns.
Really did. Yeah. Didn't even get many pressures on Jaden Daniels, which...
How about this? Do you want a depressing stat?
Sure.
Giants had the second highest blitz rate in the National Football League in Week 9 and the third lowest pressure rate. Not what you're looking for.
That's sort of what we got from the pass rush last year.
Yeah.
And have not seen anything like that this year. So hopefully that Sunday was just sort of an outlier performance. I mean, we know that when you're facing a mobile quarterback like Jaden Daniels, it does make, pressuring him and getting to him a little more difficult, because he will bounce it outside the second he feels even the slightest hint of pressure coming his way, and then will, roll outside and then throw a beautiful pass to Terry McLaurin or whatever.
Yep.
So hopefully improvements from all over the defense on Sunday in Germany.
All right, 201-939-4513. Go check out the Giants Huddle podcast. We have Marcus Kuhn going up this afternoon. I talked to Marcus about football in Germany, how it's, catching fire and all that good stuff. So that'll go up today. On Thursday, I'm going to have a conversation with the guys from the Irish NFL UK podcast that we've had on whenever the Giants go overseas. They're big Giant fans, in addition to talking all everything's NFL. So we'll talk some Giants football with them. That'll be on Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll have our normal game preview. Won't have Brian Dable on it this week, because we're not going to talk to him until Saturday when we're in Munich. But I'm going to have Jude Mekatamne joining me on the Friday Giants Huddle, talking a lot about his story, how he got into American football, and all that other good stuff. So go check that out. Giants.com/podcast, the Giants app, or just search for Giants Huddle Podcast or Giants Podcast Network on your favorite podcast platform. Big Ed in Maryland will lead us off. Big Ed, what's going on, pal?
What's up, Big John? Oh, my gosh. This is such a wonderful thing. How you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, this is so funny how the season is like things go. We are never to predict what we think should be. We are to play like we should think we should know we are doing what we can. I have to give it up because we have been given some type of effort. Exceptions for 2 games, we did give no effort, but it showed. But, I'm not getting into that, but the point I'm making is we are really 3 wins away from turning all of this around. The question is, are we going to? I'm optimistic. I'm sitting here like, okay, we done lost 7 games. But so did the Saints. And I looked at the Saints, and I thought they was going to be 7-2.
Did you?
But they done lost 5, 7 games. So it's like, and then what was even crazier, the Panthers just beat the Saints. So I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me you got 3 teams that's 2-7? 3. We have the lowest of the low. That means we're only one thing. We can only go up.
So, Big Ed, here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Right now, the third wild card team would be the Green Bay Packers at 6-3. The Eagles are 6-2, the Vikings are 6-2, and the Packers are 6-3. So that is 4 games in the loss column that you now only have 8 games to make up. That is a big, long, tough slog.
And the best part about it is it's going on in real football season. See, in September, it's like everything's coming back into motion and all that kind of stuff. So you can kind of, okay, I'm sorry, I've been spoiled by the Eli game. When Eli played, September was big with him. He won most of the games in September. He didn't play that, which I love that part. But at the same time, what we got now, we got to deal with. If you're going to, and all I'm saying in all of this really is like this. If you're going to get off to this kind of a slow start to this season, but if you can pick it up with this Germany win and then come back and beat the Bucs and the Cowboys in the same week, don't look now, but that's 3 wins.
Yeah, well, Ed, that's great. I mean, by the way, if on my way home I buy a lottery ticket and win $10 million, I'd be feeling pretty good about that too. But we actually have to see this stuff happen before we get excited about it. You know what I mean?
Right. We got to win one game at a time. We can't get ahead of it.
I mean, last night the Bucs in Kansas City, I believe, correct? That game was in Kansas City?
Yep.
Just took the undefeated Chiefs to overtime without any of their starting wide receivers.
Mm-hmm. I know. Mike didn't play. Our boy Shep played. He was good. I liked it. It was pretty good. But I tell you, man, it's like, okay, it was some movie Matthew McConaughey did. You know what I'm talking about?
Lincoln Lawyer?
Yeah. No, not Lincoln Lawyer, where he played a quarterback.
He played a quarterback?
Yeah, he was in doing football. It was something to do with football.
We Are Marshall?
Oh, We Are Marshall. He was a coach in that. Good call, Pearson.
Yes. And so here's the thing of that concept. The quarterback is supposed to know. He is supposed to know what it do before it happens. He can call the listen. If Daniel Jones, I'm glad I'm talking to you, John, because you hear me. If Daniel Jones can connect with Peyton Manning and Eli, connect with them in one way with Peyton and listen to him in one way with what Peyton will say. Because, Peyton won't say the right thing to him. But the insight thing with Eli is more important because that's the team leading thing. It's like he needs to take from both of them. Quarterback how Peyton quarterbacks a game. When he control and master that time in the game, in the play, he will be that $50 million quarterback. He has it. But if he don't do what's necessary, he will never reach it. So he needs the Manning brothers to help him, man. And that's what I'm going to leave it at.
All right, good stuff, Ed.
Before Friday.
The best part of football season? Checking out the post-game stats. Which wideouts scored more than 2 touchdowns? Which QBs threw for less than 350 yards? Think you can pick who will do what before kickoff? Then play Pick 6 from DraftKings, an official daily fantasy partner of the NFL. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, select between 2 and 6 players, and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat. It's that simple. And for all first-time Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the new DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code DK1. That's code DK1 for new customers to play $5 on your first pick set, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Non-withdrawable. Pick 6 credits. Expire in 6 months. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
But, man, I miss you, John. I try to come up there soon, man.
All right, I appreciate it, man.
To that Ravens game so we can have real fun.
All right. Thanks, Big Ed. That's got all the problems solved. Conversation with Eli. Conversation with Peyton. 3 straight wins. Boom. We're back.
Love it.
Do you want to know? Do you remember his bold prediction at the beginning of the season?
Remind me.
Win the first 14 games.
Ah! I do remember that now. Well, it was bold. It was bold. Yeah, Ed, I am and I didn't mean to be sarcastic, but I am very much in just figure out a way to one game mode at this point. It's been tough enough to do that, so let's not talk about breaking off 3 straight wins. And I realize Dak Prescott, who got put on injured reserve today, by the way, is not going to be playing. I don't know if it's official yet, but Ian Rappaport said it was going to happen.
Jerry Jones said it.
Well, I guess that's kind of official then, isn't it? Though Jerry says other things too that don't happen to come true sometimes. But Cooper Rush is still a pretty decent quarterback, and the Giants still have not had a lot of success against the Dallas Cowboys.
When Cooper Rush filled in for an extended period, was it 2 years ago? Didn't he go like
5-1 or 5-1? Yeah, something like that.
So
yeah.
just because it's Cooper Rush and not Dak Prescott in a couple of weeks, by no means does that mean it's a layup of a win for the Giants, especially going to Dallas on their annual Thanksgiving Day game.
And now they have Jonathan Mingo.
Oh. I actually really liked Mingo going into the draft.
A lot of people did.
It did not work in Carolina.
Now, as we mentioned, the Panthers have pretty much had the worst pass offense in football the last 2 years. So how much is that Mingo? How much is that the environment around Mingo? That's a fair question as well. I had Mingo as like a 60, like in this 50th best player or something like that year, somewhere in the mid to late second round, something like that. Dane Brugler tweeted about him today, said some teams had him as a late 1, early 2. Other teams had him as like a 4th rounder. So clearly Dallas was in the prior category.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how they use him.
As a rookie, Xavier Legette has already shown more than Jonathan Mingo ever showed.
Yeah,
in the last season and a half. And even Jalen Coker, an undrafted
he's
free
done a nice
agent,
job for
has
them.
done pretty well this season. So
we active on your little waiver wire, a little Jalen Coker action in your fantasy league, Matthew?
No, I did get Legette in one league, but not Jalen Coker.
201-939-4513. Let's go to Matt in Long Island. He's up next. Hi, Matt. Matt going once. Matt going twice.
Hello?
Yeah, we got you, Matt. What do you got?
Thanks. I just want to talk about the loss. I know, listen, but it's just, I don't even know. Like, it's just something like the little thing. Like, you see the Giant defense. On a 3rd and 18, when you have the ball with 18 seconds left, like, how do you allow the Commanders to score? Like, they're missing tackles.
Yeah, Matt, what made it even worse is that it was a give-up play. It was a play. It's 3rd and 18. Let's try to get 8 yards, set up a 50-yard field goal, and get the halftime 17-7. And because of poor tackling, another poor angle after the initial missed tackle, you give up 20-something yards in the first down. You could argue that was the turning point of the game.
Oh, yeah, and also Deontay Banks, he looks lost right now, I think, too, like the decision last week. I don't like to get too much in the rest, but that was a terrible PI call, and it's not been the first time, but I don't want to, I just said that was a
No, Matt, look, you know me. I always defend the referees, and I understand where they're coming from a lot of these plays. I do not have a great explanation for that OPI call. It was...
Yeah.
Especially because we saw several other teams run like basically the same exact play throughout the NFL on Sunday, and that was the only one that got called around the NFL.
Do you remember the Dallas 49er one on Monday night where the 49er player basically like pancake blocked the Cowboys slot quarter and they didn't call offensive pass interference? Like, it was crazy.
They picked it up, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, listen, but I don't know where you go from here. I mean, a very winnable game against Carolina, then you get a bye week, but like, it's just, you gotta like make like these like big. They give up too many chunk plays. Like, you can't miss tackles. You gotta contribute. Like, the first step of winning a game, you gotta make the simple look simple. But the Giants make something for hard. And sometimes with Daniel Jones on that sack, I feel like, listen, I know you mistakes, but like sometimes eat the sack. Is it a tough play? Is it the blind side? Like, you can't be a hero sometimes. You just gotta take it what's given you. And I feel like the Giants sometimes do too much. I mean, it's just, I don't know where to go from here. I mean, the offense actually did good, but I feel like, take it one step at a time. And like, why the Commanders good? Because they run the ball downfield and they pass. They don't turn over the football. And the Giants, I don't know what's going moving forward, but
thank you, Matt.
A lot of things got to change. Thank you.
Appreciate the call, man. Well, Jaden Daniels, I think, is part of that too. He's pretty good.
He's a big part of that.
I didn't know Daniel Jones won angry runs this morning.
Yeah, he did.
Good for him.
Yeah. It was a nice run. Ran over 2 defenders.
Yeah, Mike.
Got into the end zone.
It's funny. Paul said to me, I can't believe he ran over Mike Sanchez. I'm like, he does outweigh Mike Sanchez so about 35 pounds. So
yeah, and that's
I get it.
Far from the first time we've seen Daniel Jones run someone over as a rusher.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he does it several times this season.
Now we'll have to talk to Swen because they usually do like the angry runs, like photo shoot and everything like that. We'll have to get something set up.
Well, hoping that it comes before everyone leaves for Germany.
Yeah, that's true.
It's got to come in the next couple of days.
We'll have to get on that. 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. Zadarius Smith got traded yesterday. Another move at the trade deadline to keep an eye on. That was a 5 and a 6, I think, with a 7 going back the other way or something like that.
Yep.
So we're still not seeing a ton of, and I think the reason Mingo went 4-4 is because he still has 2 years on his rookie contract left.
After the season.
Yes, and for very little money. So a guy like Ojulari is a rent-a-player, even though he's on his rookie contract. He's up after this year. So, again, I think for fans looking for the Giants to make a trade, I just don't see a ton of value coming back in that situation based on what we've seen so far with the trade deadline.
Yeah, I mean, look, from the reports that are out there, which obviously we don't know how accurate these reports are, but they seem to say that, the Giants have a price for the players that potentially could be available for a trade, and they're not going to give them away for less than that price, which honestly, that is a smart strategy to use. You don't want to just be in the business of giving good players away, even if, this season doesn't end the way any of us hoped. That doesn't mean that someone like, Azeez Ojulari can't potentially be a part of the future for this team. Like, just because he could get traded today, we don't know, but like there's also a possibility that the Giants could decide to extend him at some point. So if they get good value for a player that maybe they don't particularly see as part of the long-term future plans, then of course you do a deal for the guy. But it is not good business to just be giving players away for below what they are worth. Because there's, again, as we talk about every time we come on the show, the Giants are still trying to win games. And anyone that another team might potentially want to trade for, there's a reason why that other team might be interested in getting that guy, because he is talented and can bring something to that team on the field. So the Giants, unless their asking price is met for some of these players, they're going to keep these guys and continue to try to win games.
Yeah, and the Giants do have a lot of cap space next offseason, so you can bring these guys back depending on what the price tag is going to be. So something to keep in mind. Let's go to Jim in New Jersey. He's up next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello, Jim.
Hello, John. Hello, Matt.
Hey.
Anchor down, Matt.
Anchor down.
So, yeah, baby.
Bandy.
Yeah. Commodores, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. Hey, anyway, John, I would just ask you this. I don't know how much, if anything, you've done yet with Tony, Pauline, kind of looking at the draft.
Oh, we've done plenty.
Okay, so here's what I'd say to you, John. Two things. First, when I look out at the field over these first set of games, and I look at what happens, okay, like when I watch these games, I do not say to myself that if I drop Cam Ward or Shador Sanders or Carson Beck, you name Quinn Ewers, if I put them in that spot in the place of Daniel Jones, heck, I'll take your favorite from last year, Drake May. If I drop him into that team with those mistakes on defense, how much better any of them are going to do or would have done with the team that has been assembled and the play calling, essentially the regime in which whoever the quarterback is, functions. So I'll give it you that I know kind of the next move everybody expects is for Daniel to be sad at some point to protect Joe Shane for being harangued on Twitter for Daniel Jones breaking his leg and then they're owing him money or something. So we'll then get a little bit, I guess, of the backups. But I would argue, and I know that's it, and then that's the next move.
Yeah, and by the way, and to your point, I don't think the level of quarterback play is going to improve if or when they do make that move.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say to you. Is again, I don't want to look. I'm not at the point where I want to I like Daniel Jones as a person. As a man, I think he's perfectly a good quarterback. But let me try not to be. I just want to get to my kind of the core.
Yeah,
point.
please go. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're
But
fine. You're
trying
fine.
to say
You're fine.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is I want to acknowledge up front, but I understand what reality is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I guess kind of what the next move is. But my answer to Giants fans about this, and I've been a Giants fan since 1969, is this. When I look at Daniel Jones and I look at the team in general, I view Jones as a lot like Alex Smith. who was a slightly overdrafted, but, gamer kind of quarterback with the right regime could have a lot of success. So, when I look at this team, do I look at that team and say, my God, look at Daniel Jones throwing interception after interception, look at him making the wrong choices? No, I don't. What I do see is, boy, I really wish if we have cap space, we could go out and get a true number one, a true cornerback one, so Deontay Banks can just grab and never try to get an interception as cornerback two. And I think about, wow, wouldn't it be great to get a young running mate for Dexter Lawrence so when he comes off the field, they can't gash us for running in the draft with a high position in the draft in 2025. But my concern is that's not what's going to happen. It's going to be Jones is out the door, and then, they're going to draft one of the above I just mentioned to you. And that's where my problem is. Because when I look at how Shane has drafted, and I know you guys I'm going to get in before you say, but Jim, look at the rookie class. Here's what I'd say about the team as composed. Yes, very young and everything else. But I look at all the missed opportunities. And I would say to you, one of those is something you can remember from Hard Knocks. Remember when Joe Shane's famous lines in the Hard Knocks with the Giants? It was, I'm not going to pay a $13 million running back for my $40 million quarterback to hand off to. Do you know who was handing off to the $13 million running back this year? A $50 million quarterback who had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as his wideouts. He's handing off a $50 million quarterback. And you're like, well, we can't do that, Jim, because our offensive line, we needed to have those free agents. Don't you like Illuminor and those guys? Yeah, but here's the thing. Joe Shane at 7 and 67 in the draft drafted two guys with premium picks who can't get on the field. Literally, neither of them can be the backup left tackle. You had to go out and get a guy who can run block and can't pass block. So Daniel Jones can get blasted, and Twitter can say, he turns over the ball. So to me, the answer is you have to keep building the team. And if you're going to have a situation where you're going to build the team, then having a guy like Jones, who literally now is clearly put on weight and stuff, he now smashes into the line like he's Ben Roethlisberger or something, that is a guy who won't lose his mind. You don't do something insane like trade for Anthony Richardson or something because of his athletic skills. You build teams, John. I know you've said many times, you get the quarterback, the super quarterback. But once you have the super quarterback, well, I'd say to you that there really only are 3 super quarterbacks. That's it. They're on 10. There are 3. So if you're going to remotely compete and not just be a doormat in the league, you have to build a team. That's what the 49ers do. They build a team. And so my concern about building a team is that Shane's going to keep getting to build that team. And you're like, but Jim, the rookie class. Don on Hard Knocks, the guy wanted Kool-Aid history. He wanted, basically Nubin fell to him. And why do we need Nubin? Because a guy with 6 interceptions now plays for Green Bay at safety. Okay, we couldn't pay that guy. So I also look at a lot of other choices. Look at who we drafted up for. We drafted up for Deontay Banks. Who didn't want to draft him? Mike Tomlin. Who was Deontay Banks' roommate in college? Mike Tomlin's son. That's the kind of insight that kind of a guy makes. I look at some of the players that we moved up for on offense. Wan'Dale Robinson, we moved up in the draft. Jalen Hyatt, we moved up in the draft. Okay, are they impactful players? Oh, they've got to learn the complex system, Jim. We've got to learn the complex system. I don't see it. I don't see either player. Wan'Dale is tough as nails. He's just a tiny man. And Jalen Hyatt, I don't want to diss anybody. But so that's the drafting. You know what I mean? I look at the drafting and I say to myself, where do we miss opportunities? Well, we went out, we got a 31-year-old tight end who clearly was at the end physically and mentally in the year where it was the year of the tight end. Is Dalton Kincaid, would he have been nice to have out there instead of some 5th round or 4th round project for Daniel Jones to throw to? How about maybe Sam Laporta? How about maybe Kraft and Musgrave in Green Bay? But we didn't go that route.
Yeah, I mean, I think all those guys would have been off the board whenever that pick to Kansas City would have came up, though, right?
No. Kincaid was drafted after we picked Tay Banks.
He was. You're right about that. Yeah, he was.
Okay, and Musgrave and Kraft were drafted after him. Laporta was drafted before Banks. You're right about that. But that's the thing. Detroit, which built a team and has Jared Goff as his quarterback. Hey, you think if I put Jared Goff on this team, would I suddenly have a 7-2 team? No, I don't think so. But Detroit, like the 49ers, builds a team. They have Ross St. Brown. Okay, great. But they go get Jamar Gibbs. They go get Laporta. They build a team. And then the quarterback doesn't have to be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson. He can be good, and you don't have to have a doormat team. And that's my frustration here, is I know where we're going. I feel the inevitability of it. But if I was Mr. Mara at this point, I get it. He feels like he can't do the wrong thing. But I do not see that, yes, it's a young team, but my God, John, I mean, Evan Neal is in the, Eric Flowers Hall of Fame of bad picks for offensive linemen. I mean, staggeringly bad. Let's face it. The guy cannot see the field. So,
hey, look, Matt, here's the thing. I have trouble. I have trouble being too critical of some of those picks you offered there. And you're right. Some of the results on some of them have not been what you want. But I loved Evan Neal coming out. I love Deonte Banks coming out. And this is well before the Giants made those picks. I was very public about these on these shows, so I can't run away from that. I thought both those guys were excellent picks. And so I have trouble saying that I think he made the wrong decision when I was advocating for getting those two guys those years, you know?
No, John, I'm not. Look, hey, here's the thing. What I would say about Joe Schoen is he's not doing anything crazy. This is not like he's like, the front office in the Raiders or something, but he's very paint by numbers. Look at Kayvon Thibodeau. I like Kayvon Thibodeau. Clearly he's athletic and all, but if you're a GM, it has to be more than just the numbers. It has to be more than, oh gosh, everyone said he's a 5-star. Look, if everyone doesn't get the vibe off Kayvon Thibodeau, that when it's time to leave, he's like going to Seattle or the Chargers. I doubt Harbaugh would have him, but he'll go to like Seattle. He's a West Coast guy. He will show out in his contract year, but he will not stay in New Jersey. He wants to build a platform. Now, I grew up with Lawrence Taylor, to sound like Paul Patino. I want the top 5 draft pick for a defensive player in the draft to be a monster. I want him to be terrifying. I want a quarterback really to be scared of him. I want him to be a troubled person. That's not what Kayvon Thibodeau is. He's a civilized, thoughtful, wears his glasses in the commercial where he says, hey, even if you're from Dallas, you got to get out and vote. He's a great guy. Nothing against him. But he's not a monster. So when I look at Shane as a drafter, he feels like what he is, a company man who has no real feel. He does what seems right. Now, the same thing is true with Daboll. The answer is really simple. He has had nothing but great quarterbacks. Josh Allen, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Tua in college. So for him, like when you actually listen to him, they asked him a question about Jaden Daniels. And he says, well, he put the ball here, he did this, he did that. And of course, he wanted him on Hard Knocks. But that's the thing. He's a good OC for a guy who had a great quarterback. Why not? Of course. Brett Favre,
but you remember, Josh Allen wasn't a great quarterback yet when Daboll got him.
Yeah. Hold it.
He wasn't, though.
John, I don't understand. John, he was, I'd say about him. He was an amazing lump of clay because Dan Marino sat in a skybox and said, who's that guy down there?
Oh, no. And Jim, absolutely, he had all the talent in the world, but Daboll did help him refine that talent.
John, I don't want to be a dominant thing here, but I just want to say this about the Allen point. If you go back and Google it, you'll find out that all the work Josh Allen did to become better, because the big thing with Josh Allen was he was not accurate. And
Correct.
If you Google his work, you'll find out that he had private coaches that he trained in the offseason with those private coaches relentlessly, doing going to the beach and running in sand.
Every quarterback has private coaches, though, Jim. Every quarterback does private coaching. Every quarterback does.
All I'm trying to say is this. With Daboll, he's perfectly fine. I don't dislike him. Look, if he had been the OC under Joe Judge, I think it would have been a better run for Joe Judge. Didn't work out. But what I would say to you about him as a head coach, which worries me, is he has this tendency. You watch him on all different programs. He's always on FaceTime. Players love him. Yeah, like any assistant who wants to survive in the NFL, he doesn't want to piss off his great players. Look how he treats Malik Neighbors as a rookie. Why do you think that we're already beginning to have a tiny bit of a problem with Mr. I was open? Malik Neighbors is already being a little bit kind of coddled. And I would say to you that I think a lot of the problems you see on the field, when you hear, we got to execute better, people don't execute better at a certain point because they aren't worried about executing. And I like Daboll. Again, a good person. I don't wish him any ill will. His story is amazing. I think he's a perfectly good OC. But what I think the Giants need is a competent head coach with demonstrated ability, which we have not had since we hired Tom Coughlin, who on the pro level has made the Jaguars. I looked at a guy like Vrabel and a GM to be determined who could work with him to be what you need with Giants. If you think these guys have talent, if you believe, John, and that, hey, Tay Banks can do it, if you think Kayvon Thibodeau is a great player, okay. If you like these guys, I think you need a guy like Vrabel who has run a successful program in a place where there hasn't been a lot of success before or after him. And you take a guy like that with a GM that he syncs with, and you build a team that's meant for the Meadowlands. And to me, a team that's built for the Meadowlands is a punishing defense within these rules. It's a run-driven team. I think Tracy's a nice player, but you need a Derrick Henry kind of style of punishing back to play in the Meadowlands. Global warming be damned. Most years, the Meadowlands is horrible to play in. And that would be my take. I think that's where I know where we're not going to get that. I know we're going to get Jones ejected, and I just pray he can land in San Francisco or someplace and maybe at least have a good end to his career and not end up with Mark Sanchez and stuff, because that's what the NFL establishment wants to do to that poor guy. But a sensible plan by Mr. Mara would be, in my mind, at the end of this year, when they are like 3 or 4 and whatever wins, like when it's another terrible year, is not to say to these guys, okay, now draft Quinn Ewers and problem solved. This problem isn't solved. It's not close to being solved. You don't have a secondary. You have one great defender on the line. You have a soft, civilized edge rusher. You have Azeez Ojulari out the door. You don't have a great defense. You just don't. On offense, you have one player. I mean, I love Darius Slayton.
All right, Jim, wrap it up, man. Wrap it up here, okay?
You're right. But I would just say to you, you don't have a team in my mind that's a quarterback away that's going to lift you up. Maybe you do. Maybe Jaden Daniels on this team. We'd be 7-2. But that's not my case. So that's how I'd go with it. Anyway, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the call. I appreciate it was clear Jim thought about a lot of that. He's calm. I thought he made some good points. But look, I mean, drafting is an inexact science, and it is true that, look, the guys they've drafted the last 3 or 4 years have to make up the core of this team. They need to be the best players in the roster. That's how you become a great football team, right? The guys you draft become great players. And I think there's a chance for a lot of these guys to be those guys. Some of them aren't there yet. And look, you do have to always know what's happening with the quarterback position. Do I think you make a change there and it's a silver bullet where everything is, magically everything's great now? I don't think that's necessarily the case, but it is still a very important part of this whole thing. But look, I'll be honest with you, Matt. You look at this quarterback class coming up through college, there are only 2 guys that I think talent-wise are worthy of first-round picks. Shedeur Sanders, and he has a lot of baggage. Not sure I would go there. And then you have Cam Ward from Miami, who's a pretty talented player. So, but I don't think any of these guys are Drake May, Jaden Daniels, or Caleb Williams. So what do you do if you're picking 4th and the best player is not a quarterback? Then what do you do? I don't think Quinn Ewers or the Carson Beck, or I think they're second-round talents. Like I wouldn't pick them that high. So, look, we're way too far ahead for this. There's a long way to go. But I don't think it'll be easy decisions when you get to the draft in April, depending on when you're picking. Remember, at this time last year, everyone was calling up, the Giants are going to pick 1st or 2nd overall. It's going to do this, do that, do that. You don't know what the team's going to pick. Like I said, there's a million teams with 2 wins. You can be anywhere from 1 to 9 with all the teams that have 2 wins right now.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know. It's only week 10. There's still a lot of football left to be played. We don't know what's going to happen in college football either. We don't know. Some of these quarterbacks could have these late surges and all of a sudden become guys that people think are first-round quarterbacks.
Or fizzle out late or get hurt late, any of that stuff.
So there's a lot of football left to be played. Yes, I did see Commanders just traded for Marshawn Lattimore.
Do we know what the Saints got back for him?
Yes.
That must have been a 3rd-round pick?
It was a few picks. It was a 3rd-round pick, a 4th-round pick, and then their own 2025 6th-round pick that they had previously traded to the Commanders.
Well, that's good value.
And Washington gets Lattimore, and then a 5th-round pick. So 3rd, 4th, and 6th for Lattimore and a 5th.
Yeah. And look, the Saints are clearly, I think they understand that they're not going anywhere.
Yes.
So we'll see what happens to Derek Carr there, too. They'll have to make that decision after the year and figure that out.
Yeah. And now back to that last caller. I stayed silent as we let him speak. He clearly had a lot to get off his chest.
And fans, don't ever accuse me of hanging up on people when they say things that are negative about the Giants. I just let him go on for about 8 minutes, okay? So I don't want to hear that anymore, okay?
But I got to say, there were just several things that he said that were just not accurate and not fair to include in like these criticisms of the Giants. I mean, first of all, he brought up the Joe Shane quote from Hard Knocks, the $40 million quarterback handing off to a $13 million running back. And he brought up Jalen Hurts. That is great. Jalen Hurts is signed a contract where he's getting paid an average of $50 million per year. Look at his cap hit for this year.
That is correct.
It is $13 million. Daniel Jones' cap hit is over $47 million. So it is not fair to compare that to in terms of how much cap space the quarterback is taking up compared to and in regards to fitting Saquon into under the salary cap, because Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts are making about $35 million difference in terms of cap hit this year. That's one.
And by the way, that's why if the Giants choose to, they can get out of that contract without a lot of pain after this year if they choose to do that. While the Eagles are going to be locked into Jalen Hurts for quite a while because they backloaded all of the money on his contract.
Jalen Hurts' contract is ridiculous, where the years that he's actually on the team, his cap hits are very low, and then he has about 4 or 5 void years added on to the end where his cap hits are astronomical. So something's going to have to give there. That was one. Two, in terms of all the players the Giants traded up for, the Giants traded down twice and then took Wan'Dale Robinson. They did not move up to get him.
Correct.
That was just one thing. Steelers never had a chance to draft Deonte Banks. They were one of the last picks in the round. Giants moved up to 24 to get Deonte Banks. The Steelers were at like 31 or 32.
Yeah, Porter got right in before the end of the first
round. That's where they took Joey Porter. So to just say the Steelers, Mike Tomlin wanted nothing to do with Deonte Banks, I think that's kind of
There's no way
crazy
to know that.
say.
That's correct. So he said so many things. I'm happy you kept track of them all because I did not.
Track of some. I didn't for the first half, and then I was like, all right, I need to start writing some of these down.
Thursday Night Football is on, and it's only on Prime Video.
Right on the money.
This week, it's one of the NFL's fiercest rivalries as the Cincinnati Bengals face the Baltimore Ravens.
Touchdown.
Coverage begins with TNF tonight. Not a Prime member? Sign up for a 30-day free trial to stream the game. It's the Bengals and the Ravens Thursday, only on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details.
Josh Allen has been very, very, very outspoken about how Brian Daboll has played a very monumental part in his development and getting him to where he is now. So to say that the private quarterback coaches that, as you mentioned, every quarterback has, that's what helped Josh Allen develop, and it was nothing to do with Daboll, again, kind of ridiculous to say. To also say the Giants should just sign a running back like Derrick Henry. There is only one Derrick Henry on this planet.
I was going to interrupt and say that too.
There is no one else even remotely similar to Derrick Henry.
The same way, you just got to find a Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
Okay. I'd love to find the best defensive player in the history of the National Football League. That'd be great.
Yeah, and look, to call it Jim, was it?
Jim, yeah.
You're right, that Derrick Henry, it would be fantastic having him run in MetLife Stadium or a running back like Derrick Henry, but there just aren't any other running backs in the world like Derrick Henry. There just aren't.
Yeah, more likely you're getting a Najee Harris or a Brian Robinson who are big, but they're certainly not.
There's a reason why he's 30 years old and yet he's leading the league in rushing and on pace for 2,000 yards. That is not something that is done by 30-year-old running backs.
Is he on pace for 2,000 yards?
I believe so.
Oh, man, I didn't realize that.
Okay. Moving on. Last thing I just want to say, you can criticize Kayvon Thibodeau for different things, maybe not quite living up to the expectations of being the 5th overall pick, but to knock him for being civilized, I thought was one of the more ridiculous things I've heard on the show.
It was awful.
Dexter Lawrence is the nicest guy, potentially the nicest player on the team off the field, but on the field, he is a monster and a beast that is trying to destroy the other team. So to say Kayvon is too civilized off the field and bringing up that he wears glasses, come on, if you're gonna criticize players, do it about what is actually going on the field.
Not a good point.
Don't bring up their personalities off the field. There's nothing wrong with Kayvon being civilized and being in a commercial saying to go vote. That's just not worthy of criticism, in my opinion.
I think he also said we traded up for Wan'Dale. Didn't we trade back twice
Yes, we
to
did.
that
That's
pick?
correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So
I will say though, the Giants did the last couple of years. They did have a few trades where they moved up, and so far that player hasn't quite lived up to.
Hyde, and who was the other one?
John Michael Schmitz.
That's right, John Michael Schmitz.
But again, those weren't like.
Wait, did they trade it for Schmitz?
Those weren't like. No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't JMS.
No, it was.
Trying to remember. Anyway, go ahead. I'll find it.
Banks, I think.
Hyatt Banks. There was one other player. Maybe it was in the first draft, 2022.
I'll look it up. I got it.
But I would say there have been some instances where the Giants have moved up and the player hasn't quite lived up to how expectations might have been on draft night. But none of those trades were monumental trades. I mean, to move up for Jalen Hyatt, I think it was like a 4th round pick, which
Correct.
obviously 4th round picks can end up turning into great players. But more often than not, they turn out to be, decent contributors that leave after a couple of years. Like, it's not like they were trading, 1st round, 2nd round picks to move up for these guys and then they completely bust. So, and all these guys that Joe Schoen has drafted, none of them are in more than their 3rd season in the NFL. So I don't think it's really fair to call anyone an actual bust yet because they're not even done with their rookie contracts. We don't know. Some guys bloom and blossom later, a couple of years into their career. So, yeah, just a lot of...
I do agree with his team building narrative, I guess, like what the 49ers have
Where
done.
you should build the roster before just trying to
like a
pluck
quarterback
a
won't
and
just,
drop him in.
For sure. I mean,
says the guy
obviously-
who roots for the team or grew up rooting for the team that has Drake May and plots him into a pretty bad situation.
Correct.
I will say, obviously the Commanders, that, throwing a quarterback in, it has worked out for them this season. But, Jaden Daniels, obviously he's been amazing and deserves a ton of credit. But the Commanders overhauled, their entire roster this offseason, brought in a completely new coaching staff, and it seems to be all of this is a mix that has helped get them out to this amazing 7-2 start.
Yeah, I agree.
Jaden Daniels obviously has played a very, very big role on that.
I thought the situation
but it's
around
not all Jaden Daniels.
I thought that would be a bad situation around Daniels this year, but the rest of the unit has played a lot better than I thought it would.
Yes, there are areas that everyone looked at on the Commanders before the season and were like, this is a humongous weakness. And I'm not saying that those areas they've been amazing, but they've been good enough where adding that with the improvements they've made in other areas has helped elevate this team to the first place in the NFC East. So yeah, you're right. In building a team, you can't just expect to replace the quarterback and then all of a sudden all is fixed. I mean, unless you're putting Patrick Mahomes back there, which even that...
Which again, I think that was the point Jim made, though, right? There are only, 3,
yeah,
you
I'm
argue 3 or
with
4
him on that
mega
point.
quarterbacks. It's hard to find that guy. And I actually asked Joe Schoen this at the Combine last year, and I said, well, you're always just trying to find... He goes, yeah, you are, but there's, a couple of them, and that's it, and they're hard to get. So... At some point, you get the best quarterback you can, and then you try to build the best you can around that quarterback that you can land.
For sure, but I will say, in terms of his point on the roster building, and he brought up the Lions as one team, the reason why Jared Goff, I believe, is having such a great season and was great last year as well, obviously they have a ton of playmakers, very talented playmakers there. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the running backs, Laporta. The offensive line is their strength.
I agree.
And Jim knocked the Giants for trying to fix their offensive line, and that was part of the reason why Saquon left. The Giants seemed like they were clearly trying to fix the offensive line and build that as the foundation of the team, or at least of the offense.
Well, I don't think he was knocking the theory to try to fix the offensive line. Is that they failed to fix it through the draft, so they had to spend free agent money on it. I think that's the point he was trying to make.
You're right, but it's would you double down on something that you think might be a mistake?
No, you have to pivot, and pivoting's the right thing to do. Correct.
But he did criticize the Giants for letting Saquon go to try to fix the offensive line, but then brought up teams that fixed the offensive line, and that helped elevate the entire offense.
And by the way, what else helped the lines is that not only did they get Jared Goff, they get 2 1s in that trade?
Yeah.
So not only got your quarterback, who's a top 12 quarterback, you want to say Jared Goff is, however you want to classify him. This year he's probably a top 6 quarterback, top 5
playing
quarterback.
Amazing.
Correct. But they got 2 1s to try to fill out their roster, which certainly helps when you're trying to build your team. So yeah, Jim, good call. We appreciate the comments, and I can tell you thought a lot about it. Good response by Matt. Let's go to Wilson and Roxbury. I'm sure Wilson put just as much deep thought and really sat down and went through everything to get prepared for this call. Wilson, what's up, buddy?
Johnny, I love you and I love Matt. I love everybody. But listen, before I get to Joe Shane and Brian Dable, I'm gonna ask you guys something, because you always tell me the same thing. I'm gonna ask you this: what does Adam Gase and Ben McAdoo have in common besides being two ex-NFL head coaches?
They're both ex-NFL head coaches in the New York market, and were both considered offensive quarterback guru types.
No. You know what they both have in common? They both made the playoffs. And they're obviously not good head coaches because they both got fired. So the reason I'm saying that is this goes more towards you, Matt. Don't tell me ever again that Brian Dable made the playoffs.
Adam Gase didn't make the playoffs as the Jets head coach,
yes,
did
he?
he?
Did with Miami.
As the Jet? No, but not as the Jets head coach.
Oh, well, no, I'm just saying that they both made the playoffs. So even bad coaches make the playoffs. So that's not an excuse for Brian Dable anymore. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that, and Ben McAdoo won 11 games, by the way. But Johnny, listen, I love you, but I know that you like Brian Dable. I think he's a horrendous head coach, and I think this team has checked down on him already. And another thing that I don't want to hear, because it's a phrase that is used too often in the NFL. Well, the players play hard for him. The players play hard for themselves. You have leaders on the defense basically talking amongst each other. Probably, you know what they're probably saying? I said, what the hell are we doing? Jonathan told you the other day, because I was driving, he said to you that players were looking at each other when he went for another 2-point conversion. You have a rookie wide receiver that is already talking too much for me, saying, well, you can't run in one half and pass in the other half. And if he would have done that, if Malik Neighbors would have done that with Tom Coughlin, he would have played for 3 games. But it is what it is. And on Joe Shane, listen, Johnny, I understand. Listen, all general managers, I think, to me, when they pick a player, they don't think, it's going to be a bust in 2 years. No, I think they have conviction and they make picks because they think they're going to be good players. I don't think that they make a pick thinking they're going to be bad players. But Joe Shane, his legacy is Evan Neal, Kevin Thibodeau, which I don't care what anybody says, he's a second-round pick at best, and Ted Banks. So he's got a second-round pick as a top 5 pick and 2 busts. So I understand he didn't.
Wait, hold on. Deontay Banks is a bust already?
Oh my, Johnny, you're not actually telling me that this guy is an NFL starting player. Don't tell me that, Johnny. Don't tell me that this guy is an NFL starting cornerback, because, I mean, Johnny, come on now. That's not fair.
He has a lot of stuff to clean up, but to label a kid a bust after not even finishing his second season when he actually had a halfway decent rookie year, I think is a little bit strong.
Oh, but Johnny, Johnny, listen, Giant fans, we can't think like you, because obviously, you in the media. We have to take what we see on the television, Johnny. It's not fair for me to think, well, it's got to clean up. I can't think like that. I'm a fan.
Okay, well, Wilson, that's your decision, and the Giants front office can't think like a fan, because otherwise you'd be firing and turning over the whole organization every 3 games.
Johnny, but at the end of the day, his legacy are those 3 players. So obviously, not all the general managers, they want to pay good players, but at the end of the day, somebody's got to pay the piper, Johnny. Like, somebody's got to pay the piper for this head coach. Let me ask you something. If he's obviously, according to you guys and to a lot of people, he's a great head coach and a great play caller. Yeah, and everything is Daniel Jones' fault. So why do you keep playing Daniel Jones then? It's like something just doesn't compute. If I have a player that everything is your fault, but yet I have to play you because I don't have.
Wilson, when have I ever said it's all Daniel Jones' fault?
No, not Johnny. Okay, not you, Johnny. But Johnny, come on. You read the Post and the Daily News.
I don't care what the newspapers say, Wilson. I do not give, and I've said this to you many times, I could not give 2 you-know-whats about what Stephen A. Smith says, Shannon Sharp says, Mike Florio says, and I like Mike, but I do not care what these people say. I do not care what the beat writers write. I literally sit here every morning, and I'm at the game for every game, watching the game, and I rewatch it for 4 hours the next day every day. I know what I see. I know what I think. I don't give two you-know-whats about other people think. They can have their opinion. You can have your opinion. That's fine. I'm going to base my opinion off what I see with my two eyes and what my analysis is. So don't put other people's words into my mouth. That's all I'm saying.
No, I don't do that. I don't do that, Johnny. Come on. Don't get
You
mad
said
at me, Johnny.
you! When you blame Daniel Jones for everything, what does that say about Brian Dable? You said you! You're talking to me!
Oh, no, but I'm talking to you, but I'm talking in the third person as Brian Dable. Brian Dable blames. That's what I meant to say. But
I get
listen.
you.
Because
Brian Dable doesn't blame Daniel Jones for everything either, by the way.
Daniels is like Daniels is like the best thing. To me, Daniel Jones outplayed him in that game. They only caught 5. Let me tell you something. If Daniel Daniels tries to do that run on the touchdown that DJ ran over 2 defensive players, that kid he would have ended up in the emergency room. Yet. He had a great game, and Daniel Jones is a bum because he didn't complete one pass in the first quarter. That's what bothers me.
Well, that's an asinine comment. For people that make that comment, Wilson, thank you for the call. It's stupid. It's stupid. Ignore them. It's an idiotic commentary on the first half of the game. It's stupid. It's idiotic. Ignore those people. PSA. Okay? When you're averaging 7 yards per carry, run the ball! That's what they did. That's what you should do. 7 yards of play, running the football. Why would you pass it? One of the 6 times you did pass, that's when you had the sack fumble. That potentially cost the Giants the game. Don't let that bother you, Wilson. I'm begging you. I wish I could control his reading and watching habits, Pearson. There's a smart football fan in there. There is. He's in there. I can hear glimpses of him trying to get out, but he's buried beneath idiotic things he hears from First Take.
Like parental controls.
Yes, he needs Big Blue Kickoff host controls on his media habits. Wilson, I love you, and I know you love the team, and we appreciate your fandom. Thank you for calling. Don't let what other people say impact what you feel or think and how you're reacting to these games. Don't let it bother you. I'm begging you, please. For your sanity. For your enjoyment of the game. Don't let this other stuff impact you.
That was like an old WFAN rant from you there. I haven't heard one of those from you since I've been on the show. Just sit here and let you do the thing.
I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all, and I agree completely with you.
And again, look, just don't let that stuff bother you. That's all I'm saying. You can have your opinion. I'm not saying your opinion's even wrong. I'm just saying don't let that other stuff bother you. That's all I'm saying.
The only thing I will add to that, to what Wilson said, is that as you and I have said, I don't even know how many times, going all the way back to OTAs, the reason why Daniel Jones is the quarterback right now of the New York Giants is because on the roster that currently stands, he is the most talented quarterback on this team. I don't know how many times, how many different ways we can say that. This team is still trying to win football games, and they're going to put the players out there that they believe will give them the best chance to do that. And right now, that is Daniel Jones at quarterback. It's just a matter of fact.
And look, let me just say one other thing about that 2022 draft. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. And guys, good job on the phone today. This was fun. The 2022 draft is going to go down as a not very good draft. Just the way it is. The first 4 picks have turned out to be pretty good. Trayvon Walker, who I think his career is very similar to Kayvon Thibodeau. You want to put him in the same level? First overall pick, 5th overall pick? I think they've been similar players since they came out. Okay?
He also probably didn't deserve to be the first overall pick.
Right.
The guy who went second should have been.
Correct. Aiden Hutchinson, legit monster. Okay? Yeah. And he was the safest pick that year. I didn't think he would quite reach the level he's reached. I thought there were some athletic limitations. Turned out to be wrong about that. He's pretty darn good. Derek Stingley and Sauce Gardner have both turned out to be really good cornerbacks.
Yep.
I think we talked about at the time that if Sauce Gardner was there at 5, the Giants probably would have selected him with that pick. But he wasn't, so they didn't have the chance. So here are the guys that got picked after Kayvon Thibodeau, okay? Ike Ekwonu, who has not been good.
Nope.
Charles Cross, who's been a okay offensive tackle, but he's been hurt a lot, okay? the Giants were not picking a wide receiver that year, that early in the draft,
No,
trying to
'cause they
build
just
in the
took
trenches.
Kadarius Toney in the first round the year before.
Correct. So
he was still on the team at this time.
Now, you don't want to let one mistake force you into another mistake. But the Giants are trying to rebuild the trenches this year, okay? So you can make the argument that the Drake London, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave wide receiver combination was a good one. It was, okay? Here are the guys that got picked after that. Jameson Williams, who has not worked out. Jordan Davis, who has not worked out. Kyle Hamilton, who's a safety. You're not picking a safety in the top 7 of one of these drafts.
He is very good, though.
He is excellent
We'll
player.
say.
Excellent player. But you're not picking a safety in the top 7.
No.
All right? Kenyon Green, who's been a disaster. One of the reasons Houston's season has been so bad. He was a guard. Jahan Dotson's already been traded. He hasn't done anything with Philadelphia this year. Zion Johnson with the Chargers has been a below-average starting guard in this league. Treylon Burks, is he even playing? Like, is he getting playing time?
I think he's on injured reserve right now.
Oh, is he? Well, either way, has not worked out. Trevor Penning was benched last year at offensive tackle. He's got put back in, I believe, on the right side this year.
And there's buzz about him getting traded today.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Is there buzz about him getting moved? I didn't see that.
Potentially. Nothing done.
So that has not worked out. Kenny Pickett, not so good. Trent McDuffie was a good pick at 21. Quay Walker's been Kyer Elam, I think, is out of the league. Tyler Smith as a guard was a good pick at 24. And then you get into some of the other guys later on in the draft. So this was not like, well, the Giants, they could have got this guy, and this guy, and they would have been game changers in those positions, and you picked the wrong one. All you can do is pick the best players of the ones that are left when you're on the board. And look, I said it that year. Those two guys were top 5 players on my draft board that year. I think there were 2 and 3 after Hutchinson. No, I had Sauce ahead of him. So I think there were 3 and 4 or 2 and 4 or something like that. So have they been as impactful as maybe you would like? Maybe not. But I have trouble burying the guy for that when at the time, before the draft even took place, and you would have told me you're walking away from this draft with Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal, I would have said, where do I sign? Tell me the piece of paper in which I can sign up for this deal, and I would have been like, great, let's do it.
Yeah, and to go back to like last year's draft with Deontay Banks, Schmitz, and Hyatt being the first 3 picks, I remember because I am in charge of, a lot of stuff like reactions to stuff on Twitter.
You also track mock drafts, by the way.
I track mock drafts as well. Every Giants fan was ecstatic about those 3 picks last year.
A lot of people had JMS as a first-round pick that year.
Yes. And the only center that went before him, Joe Tippmann to the Jets, hasn't been great either.
And we didn't even think Deontay Banks was going to get to the Giants that year.
So it's very easy to look back in hindsight and be like, oh, the Giants should have made this pick. They should have made that pick. But let's not forget, in the moment, everyone was so happy about these Giants draft picks.
And by the way, league-wide analysts, like draft people, thought the Giants did a really nice job with
you
those
can
picks
go
too.
back, because this is an article I'm in charge of every year right after the draft. Expert grades the Giants draft class. Go back, Google 2022, 2023, even 2024 this year, expert grades for the Giants draft class. And you tell me that it was just, the Giants that thought some of these players were, great. Everyone seemed to be on the same page about a lot of these guys.
Now look,
you go back in any draft and be like, oh, Amon-Ra St. Brown was a 5th round pick. I can't believe the Giants passed on him. Well, so did 32 teams, 31 other teams. And it took until the 5th time the Lions had a draft pick to take him. So you can go back in every single draft, look at late round picks that hit and be like, I can't believe this, the Giants missed this guy or didn't pick this guy. It's such a stupid thing that gets done every single year about previous draft classes. Like a position that was not a position of need for the Giants 2 years ago. Why would they pick someone in the 4th round at that position if it wasn't a position of need? If they already had multiple players at that position, why would they have done that? Oh, but the guy 3 years later turned out to be a Pro Bowl receiver. That's great, but in the moment, it would have been criticized if they made some of those picks in the moment.
Yeah, look, and drafting's hard. It's an inexact science. You're not going to get everything right. And in the end, do what people and experts and we thought of the draft picks matter? No, the results are what matters. But again, 3 years into a regime, it's too early to make those type of overarching decisions, no matter where, the arrow, in your opinion, might be pointing at the current time. Hi, Citak.
Real quick, Mike Williams traded to the Steelers just now.
Wow.
For a 5th round pick.
Oh, I'll tell you what, another guy for Russ Wilson to throw those moon balls to.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. For Citak, I'm Schmeelk. That's Big Blue Kickoff Live. Pearson, good job managing those levels and not having us blow out everyone's ears when I started screaming. Tomorrow it's Madeline and Howard Cross. We'll turn the page to the Panthers. Good times. Then we're off to Germany. We'll talk to you then. And I could use a stein of beer right now. Adios.
I'm Peter Schrager, host of Good Morning Football on the NFL Network and the Season with Peter Schrager podcast. Whether you're ordering wings for the game or you're whipping up a 7-layer dip or you're ordering a pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food, no matter what you're craving. From 2-for-1 pizzas to buy one, get one wings to whatever it is you want, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week all season long. Uber Eats is the official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now for game day. Terms and conditions apply, and see the app for details.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's LeVar Arrington here from Up on Game, and I need you to listen for a moment, all right? And get serious. The hate in this country is getting out of control. It's at an all-time high. It's going to take all of us to stop it. I mean, think about it. We're all on the same team in this country, right? Let's take a break from hate so our team can regroup. We need to take a timeout against hate. Visit standuptoallhate.org to help and join me in calling for a timeout against hate by following at What's Up With Hate or posting the blue square emoji.